With this session update, I'm Shannon Lurkey. Because of the death of Daunte Wright, the Brooklyn Center man shot by a police officer during a traffic stop on Sunday, Senate Majority Leader Paul Gazelka called a press conference to announce that the Senate would hold hearings on public safety in the coming weeks.
It feels like it's a powder keg out there, and we have to figure out how to get through it. And let me say that I had a conversation with the governor and the speaker this morning, and in fact, the speaker and the governor were very hot at each other, just trying to figure out, how do we get through this? But the fact is we have to come together. And I just want to talk about the fact that we have been listening to people, we want to listen to people, and we will continue to listen to people. And what I mean by that is if you go back to last year after the death of George Floyd, I said that we have the opportunity for transformational change leading from Minnesota, and we immediately, the House and Senate went to work to deal with a police accountability bill. And I believe there was something like 12 different pieces of legislation that we put into one bill and passed. It was Senate File 37. You can go back and look it up just to see the depth of the things that we passed. But I want to remind people, because they want us to do something, and I first want to talk about what we have done and then go forward to what we still might or could do. So in that bill last year, as a result of listening and working together with the House and the governor, we banned chokeholds. That was major legislation that we passed. We eliminated warrior training. We added language that was the duty to intercede, which meant a police officer seeing another police officer doing something wrong, they needed to intercede. We reformed arbitration, which was what we do when there's a situation where a police officer is accused of something. How do we work through it to make sure we get to a good agreement and settlement at the end? We focused on mental health and autism and cultural diversity, and required those things in training. And we provided mental health resources for police that encountered something traumatic as a result of being a police officer, and how to walk through it so that they didn't take that out on the people that they're actually trying to protect. We added citizens to the police board. There was 2 on there, we added 2 more, and on and on. And so what I want to say is we passed a significant bill that some people said was not far enough, but other people said it was too far. In fact, on the language related to lethal force, we haven't even worked out all the bugs yet, but I think you would find many police that said it was too far. In fact, our communities that are on the borders are having a hard time getting mutual aid agreements with the police from the other states because they don't like the language that we put in place. And so we feel like we struck the balance that got agreement from all sides that these were some of the things that we could do. But having said that and reviewing all that with you, I'm still willing to have hearings in the Senate and talk about, are there other things that we can do? And so we're committed to having hearings on 2 sides of this issue. Earlier, within the last year, we did do a deep dive into what went wrong with the riots, what happened, what worked, and had an extensive look at that, and we put out a report on that one. So I want Senator Newman to take a look at where we're at today, and also I want Senator Limmer to look at where we're at today with judiciary and bringing people in and listening to some of the concerns they have about issues that are they yet taken care of or not. I'm not promising that we're going to do more reform. I'm promising to listen to see if something is warranted. And all of that is in the backdrop of the fact that we are constitutionally directed to pass a 2-year budget by mid-May, that if we do not pass and don't get it done by July 1st, our state government shuts down. That is a huge priority, and I want to encourage everybody, don't threaten that we can't get our budgets done if we don't get police accountability. We're going to continue to work on that, as I've shown that we did in the past. We'll continue to work on that. And so I just want to encourage people, too, that let other folks know that there are some things that the Senate has been working on. We passed 2 bills that we called the Law Enforcement Operations Account. That was the LEO bill, to make sure there was resources for preparing for the trials of Chauvin. But I want to say, even on that one, we passed it out of the Senate twice. It never passed the House. And so there are some things that we're working on and will continue to work on. But I did want to announce that we are going to have some hearings. It is fruitful, the conversations we have with the governor and the speaker, that we can have very sincere, real deep conversations about how do we make sure that we are letting the police know we appreciate what they do and the hard work that they do everywhere in very, very difficult situations, but that we expect police accountability, and that we also want to listen to the public where they feel like it just isn't the way it should be. And hearings are for fact-finding at this point. We said we want to listen to where are people at on these issues. As I mentioned, tomorrow we start the first of our budget bills that must get done. That is the highest priority of things that we need to get done right now, is make sure we get the budget done. But in that, we can do more than one thing. We can listen to the people of Minnesota, wherever that they want to come out and testify about these situations. Something could come out of that, but I don't want to promise something that people have an expectation that we would get it done during this session. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying we're in the last of 5 weeks, and we just started passing the budget bills, and that makes things very, very difficult in this short time frame. Question, I think I heard correct, language saying you couldn't be part of any white supremacist group and be a police officer. Well, first of all, we strongly condemn white supremacy. At the same time, I don't know that we need language to force people. To me, it feels like a red herring, but certainly I will take a look at it. The opening the door for conversations is recognizing that with the death of Dante in this situation, even though it's a tragic accident, it appears to be a tragic accident, just means that we want to open the doors for conversation, because people want to know that they're being heard. I talked to people in Minneapolis, a number of pastors I've been talking to over the last day or two. They don't want to defund the police. They want the police, but they want bad apples plucked out. They recognize this situation as just a, like I said, an unjustifiable tragedy, and what do we do about it? And so, we're going to navigate this together, and I think that's the whole point of why we want to do a press conference today, fairly spur of the moment, is just to say, as a result of the conversation with the governor and the speaker, we want to try to navigate through this. I'll reach out to the police organizations who I think have the best in mind of our communities and represent many, many good police officers across the entire state, and we'll listen to the people that feel like their voice is not being heard and there's been mistreatment, and we will navigate through it. And I do believe that that's where the governor is and the speaker as well.
To continue following these issues and more, watch legislative coverage Monday through Friday on the PBS Minnesota channel, or visit our website, www.senate.mn/media.